Welcome to Statistical Test Part 2. We begin by clicking on Statistical Test from the main menu. That brings me to the Test menu, and I would like to start with a two-sample t-test. So I click on that, and you'll notice that I must enter some values. Again, I must select the appropriate sign for my alternative hypothesis. This sign must always match the sign from your problem that you've set up with the alternative hypothesis. So let's pick some numbers. Let's say that the sample 1 mean is 12, sample 1 deviation is 1, the sample 1 size 13. Recall this is a t-test. Sample 2 mean 11, sample 2 deviation 1.5, sample 2 size 11. Let's choose not equals, calculate. I see that both the pooled and non-pooled results are returned. For the t-test statistic pooled, that means we're considering that the variances are the same. Then the t-test statistic is 1.9492. The t-test statistic for not pooled is 1.8849. The p-value for pooled is 0.0641. The p-value for not pooled is practically 0. So there is a help provided for this. And I do give the formulas in case you're curious of how to do this by hand. I do give the formulas for you. And I give the rejection rule. If you'd like to see the graph, you simply click on Graph. And you'll see that the p-value, 0.0641, is this area that's shaded under the curves. The test statistic, negative 1.9492, positive 1.9492, are shown here. And the area under the curve would be these outer edges. So if your value exceeds negative 1.9492 or exceeds 1.9492, of course it would fall in the rejection region, and you would reject HO. Again, the p-value tells you that there's a 0.0641 chance that you'd be making an error should you reject HO, a type 1 error. It is also the probability that by random chance a value would be at least this far from the null hypothesis. So the probability that a value would fall in this region out here is 0.0641. That's the p-value. And I would like to also run, say, the chi-squared test for you. The chi-squared test is when you're comparing a sample variance to a population variance. Recall the variance is the deviation squared. So let's just say that the population variance is 16, that your sample variance is 13.7, and that you have a sample size of 11. We click calculate. We can see the chi-squared value is 8.5625. The p-value is 0.4259. It's pretty high. Of course, there is a help provided with this. So I give you the formula for calculating the chi-squared value and the rejection rule. There's also a graph that can be provided. Recall that the shaded area is the p-value, and this value here is the chi-squared test statistic. And there's also f-test. There's many of these tests. They all work approximately the same way. And this ends your session on Statistical Test Part 2.